why should someone pursue learning the skills needed to grow their own food?
I think because let's say we travel few times a year. We we meet different people sometimes a week, sometimes a year. But there is one thing that we do every day is eating. And if we not know, or if we do not know how to grow our food and where our food comes from, and that's where the real problem really begins there. You know what I mean? When you have broccoli that comes from New Zealand or Chile or Canada in the middle of summer, and the, it's a dead food that gets in your plate. There is no nutrients, and the worst part is you have no idea why you're getting sick or you're not mentally strong or emotionally strong. That at the end of the day, it's all related to food. You know, like we have the two strongest organs that we have in our body, the two vital, there's the heart, three, I would say, the heart, the brains, and the gut system, and all of it, it's all connected. And they say we are what we eat, and if we don't know what we're eating, and that's where the problem starts. You know, the importance is knowing why, what you're eating, when, where it's growing, what is inbounded in that process of growing food. For me, that's the most important thing. That's why they should know how to grow food.
Definitely, I completely agree with that. And what you mentioned, knowing what you're eating, why you're eating it, and where it comes from, very, very key because um, knowing why you're eating what you're eating will help us then not only track our intake, but also, of course, know where it comes from. And look, I see you just joined. Welcome. So we just went over the first question, and we will keep going with the second one. And this topic that we're discussing right now is challenges when first starting to grow your own food. So, when someone decides to start growing their own food, inevitably there are some challenges that they will encounter at first, right? So, Tiago, what do you think are some of those most common challenges that someone faces when they first start out?
Knowledge. That's the first thing, okay? Because knowledge been passed through generations over generations. So my grandfather learned from his dad, my great grandfather learned from his dad, and that went on for generations. And also in gatherings, not only celebrating different change of seasons and different planting seasons, harvesting seasons, rainy seasons. So that's where knowledge is being passed on. And lately, we have we are exposed to a lot of good information online, but at the end of the day, that type of knowledge is not being passed through generations. The How do I know that is because I run workshops pretty much weekly, and 99% of the people doesn't even know when the sun, what time, where the sun rises each time of the year, when is the rainy season, how much rain comes, how much rain we had last year. They don't know path, the path of the sun. They don't know what is in season, what is not in season. And so the first challenge I would say that is knowledge. The second challenge would be understanding your own context. People want they when they don't understand how much knowledge they have, how much land they have access to, what is that land can provide, what is the size of their land. I'll give a quick example. If you want to raise animals, and you want to have 50 cows and you only have 5, 10 acres, it's not going to be possible. Whatever that cows will be depleting the soil. So the thing is, knowledge and context will be the guidelines to where you want to go with your learning process, so you can make it or a self-sufficient system or of, let's say, a commercial farm if you want to, you know. So understanding your context means not only your how much land you've got access to, how much knowledge, but how much time you want to spend in the garden, how much help you have, how much money you want to put in, um, and then goes beyond your farm gate or your house gate. What you can sell, how much you can sell it for. You know what I mean? Have you got access to markets? What would be your process from growing it to out of your farm gate or your homestead gate? Do you have a processing facility? Do you know what you do with the food, or what's the shelf life of the product that you're producing? And the what I put it as a context is pretty much what are all the boundaries, and that's what I tell people all the time. Think big, start small, start soon, and always have a little learning, I would say, a living school in your backyard so you can learn from it and then you can scale after that.
I really like the think big, start
Think-
small, start soon. You said
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
definitely. I really really like that because it's true. Sometimes we want to start with the big projects and then we get overwhelmed, discouraged, and never actually start. So that way is a great way to just start small, but you think big, right? So in the long run, you do little steps consistently, you will get to that big goal.
And another thing that I want to point is that when you talk about knowledge and context, let's say when uh, there is a learning curve, okay? So that is time and how much you learn, okay? If you think about that's how much I'm learning, that's time going by. That takes a lot of time to learn things, and there is two ways to do it. You can go and practice in your own backyard and learn by doing your own mistakes, or you can get someone in to help you out that, and then you're speeding up the time. So instead of, because the learning curve is not like a crescent curve, you know what I mean? It goes, I learned something, oh, I made mistake. I learned something, I made mistakes. I learned something, I made mistakes. By the time that it went by like 5, 10, 15 years, for you to get enough knowledge to actually go commercial, or at least know what you can grow, where you can find your seeds and everything, that's where for me, when I start learning, I had to go back to Brazil. I made a commitment that I was going there a few times a year for many years, and bringing people over here to teach me here many times a year. So I wanted to speed up this process. You know what I mean? So I want to be with the people who was actually doing. I was working in their place. I was seeing systems that were 10, 15, 20 years old. You know what I mean? So for the people who wants to start, when I say start small, is okay, have your little trial there, but also go and learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. You know what I mean? So it's easier to go out and see what other people is doing, learn from their mistakes, and then you can make new mistakes and you can share with your community as well.
I completely agree. That's the advantage that we have nowadays with technology and the internet, and especially a platform like school, which is building communities and bringing experienced growers together so that we could all learn from each other and, of course, offer the different products or services that we each could offer. So I completely agree with that. And the follow-up question to this topic would be, then could you share any personal experience or stories where you encountered some of these challenges that you mentioned and how you overcame them?
Okay, so I work. part of the work that I do is, if you think about, I do work with like households, like five, I would say 1,000 square meters home or 500 square meters home block, where there is a house in the middle, 2 meters on that side, 5 meters on that side, 5 meters on that side. So it's a very small space, all the way to reforesting deserts in Texas or in the desert of Australia, and working with farmers and companies who wants to do um, 5,000 hectares of farming producing commercial farming production. And the challenge that I encounter overall is people being open enough to learn, you know what I mean, to hear other people, see their mistakes and take that on board. And that's most of the challenge that we see. And the lack of understanding of the natural ecosystem that we live. For example, people are happy to dig a bore and suck water out of the ground until it runs out, and then hopefully you made enough money and you buy another piece of land and do the same there. So I say that our actions or interactions with the ecosystem or with whatever we wherever we're passing through life, we got to stop being damaging it, leaving it worse than what we found. You know what I mean? And the lack of understanding of the ecosystem, what it takes for each plant to grow. It's not just go out and get a bag of fertilizer and bring it in. It can be in a small scale, but what it actually takes to grow food naturally, because this, how can I say, the industrial revolution has been here for a couple of 100 years only, but mm, people have been living here for hundreds of thousands of years, and animals and everything. So there is a system that's already working. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. And understanding that, and I think that when people think that it will be more expensive because it's more labor intensive sometimes to do it on the right way than actually going out and buy synthetic or natural fertilizer to bring it in, instead of actually learning how to work with nature. That's the where the challenge, the biggest challenge for us is that, again, it comes back to knowledge, understanding your context. And when the context that I mean is we live in this planet, there is no out. You know what I mean? We don't bring anything out of this planet, and we cannot throw anything out of the planet. So whatever we have to work is already here. And if we learn how to work with what we already have here, will take us to a better place. You know what I mean? Like healthier food, healthier communities, healthier human beings, and healthier organs, healthier cells. So if you think about micro to macro, the patterns they are the same. The same things that my cells need is the same thing that my organs need. Is the same thing that my body needs. The same thing that many bodies, like a community, need. That's the same thing that many communities need. Live abundantly and live healthy.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I like the analogy of going from macro, the ecosystem, to micro, right? Because of course the food that we eat ends up being who we are. So definitely I like how you explain that. And then the lack of understanding of the ecosystems and knowledge and context is what seem to be the main challenge, right? And it actually helps us go into the next topic. I didn't think you would, but I now I see that it definitely led us to now the second set of questions, which is, misconceptions, notions, or unrealistic expectations about achieving your goals around growing your own food. And this is really on a personal level, my experience, right? It might be different for other people, but at least my experience was at first when I wanted to start growing food. I started learning how to grow food, but I had some rather unrealistic expectations, thinking that I was going to be able to grow all of my food that I eat, right? And then I started learning, and I realized that it can be feasible depending on the location and your amount of work that you're doing, but that's not necessarily the ultimate goal. So my question then would be, what do you think are some of the misconceptions or incorrect ideas that people have when they first start growing food, or they think they're going to start growing food?
Um, I think the misconception is the again comes back to knowledge again. Not knowing what is in season for because when you think about seasons and change of season, let's say we are in the change of seasons now. There is that gap where you stop planting what was in the last season, but you cannot plant what will be in the next season as well. So, and then that's a time for you to have your little seeds and seedlings, seeds collection, seedlings, planting seeds into planet. So you can transplant that seedling when the time comes. So understanding, so when you talk about self-sufficiency, so again, context, okay, what is the context? You want to grow for yourself, you want to grow for your community, you want to grow for commercially. It's a whole different games in different contexts. But let's put in that box of growing for self-sufficiency. What do we need? We need seasonal veggies and salads. We need staple food. We need cherries and berries. We need fruit trees, and we need protein. Okay, so that's basically when you think about what you need, and each one of those things, they are part of the system. Okay, like a leafy green, it doesn't come by itself in one garden bed, only leafy green. The same thing that an organ in a body doesn't come by itself. There is no body made only of hearts or brains. There is a whole conjunction or the whole combination of organs that comes together to make a body. So when you create a food production system, it comes from a system. What is a system? Many parts working together. So if you're creating a seasonal veggies and salad system, what is involved in that system, how long that system will live for, and what is the beginning, what is the middle, what's the end of that system. You know what I mean? The same way that we come here, our parents needs to meet and mate, and then we come into life, and then we have a timeline, and then we go out of this life. Plants, they are the same. Some plants will live for 30 days, so some plants will live for 3 months, some plants will live for 3 years, some plants will live for 300 years, and some plants will live for 3,000 years. When you understand how those life cycle of plants work, and you can stack them all together, understanding the life cycle and what function they have, we can start putting those systems together. So again, when I'm going back to the box of homestead self-sufficiency, I try to create systems for people. Okay, they what do they need? They need a mini food forest. They need something, a mini climbing system. They need a staple food garden. They need a herb garden. They need a seasonal veggies and leafy greens. They need a compost system. They need they need some protein systems, if it is chickens or if it is goats, whatever it is that they are growing. So how we can create this system? Because at the same way that if you put animals in your backyard, they need to eat. If you put plants in your backyard, they need to eat too. What is the system? How do you get that system to work so they can provide it to you? Because if you put the animals in your backyard and you don't feed them, they're not gonna give anything to feed you. The same thing will go for your plants, And some plants, the most of the plants, they come from a very lush ecosystem. What's the type of soil? How aerated is the soil? How much nutrition has in that soil? How many? The same way that we don't come here, we are to this planet without our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents. So there is a whole lineage for us to be here. The same thing is plants are the same. For them to grow naturally, there was forests and forests and forests and forests and forests, forest up, forest down, forest up, forest down, forest up, forest down. And then there is enough fertility for those type of plants to grow. So when we don't understand that and we don't know the actual environment that that plant needs to grow, or that animal, and that's when we cannot make that system work. So the challenge are knowledge and understanding what you need and how much time you want to put into that.
Definitely, I agree. And the context, again, is very key. How you mentioned knowing what is your goal, right? If you want to feed yourself, or the community, or if it's going to be more of a business.
Commercial.
So definitely makes a lot of sense. And the follow-up question to that then would be, what advice would you give someone starting out today to set realistic goals and avoid feeling discouraged if they set incorrect goals, things that are not realistic?
Get 1 square foot and stop planting. Because if you tell me that you don't have 1 square foot to plant, and why bother? You know what I mean? Again, stop planting, and then when you stop planting, because I can go here and talk and I can listen to hours and hours of videos, but until it's like swimming, you can hear all the theory about swimming, but until you throw yourself into the water and start putting shaking your arms and hands, that's when you actually learn. So, and that's why I run workshops. When you think about the workshops that I run like kids growing like veggies and herbs in little pots, and then I teach families how to grow salads and veggies on a rotational system where they have enough for throughout the whole season. And then I teach people how to grow a food forest, mini food forest in their backyard. And then I teach people how to grow commercial, even within the food forest. We have the focus on market garden, or you have a focus on self-sufficiency. You have a focus on um, commercial farming, you know what I mean? And then within the commercial farm, you have, okay, is my focus on the short life cycle fruit trees like bananas, pineapples, papaya, or my focus is on um, long-term fruit trees as a target crop. So, and everything changed. So that's why knowledge is very important, you know?
100%. And I really like that advice, that to just start, because at first, just like anything in life, it could be um, something that you don't know where to start, right? So if you just start small and learning how to sow seeds, then you get going, get encouraged by that, and then go from there. So I do like how you go from smaller to larger.
It's very common that people come to learn and they say, "Oh, I got some seeds that I bought 5 years ago," and then they don't even know that 5 years, some seeds they are not viable anymore. Or they bring seeds that, "Oh, I got some broccoli seeds here that, oh, you can't grow broccoli. It's in the middle of summer." Oh my God. Or they bring zucchinis to plant in the middle of winter, and the zucchinis in. Or they plant at the end of the season and the plant doesn't have enough weather conditions to grow. So, and that's when you start planting, the questions start coming, and then you go and search for the right answer or the right people to help you.
Definitely. I thank you for sharing that. And now we can move into the next topic, which is learning a little bit more about you and your experience. So my first question is really a general question, and is, what is syntropic agroforestry?
Uh, Syntropic agroforestry is again agriculture forest for agroforestry. So growing your agricultural products within the forest ecosystem. Okay, understanding the real dynamics of the forest. Why forest? Because that's where every plant comes from, or every animal comes from. And when you understand how the forest dynamic works, understanding the principles and processes of growing a forest, and then you can put your target plants or your combination of plants within that system. So syntropic agroforestry is a very not only uh, philosophical or and practical understanding of the dynamics of ecosystems and how to grow food following these ecosystems rules and principles and yeah, that's it. So syntropy is the opposite of entropy. What is entropy? Entropy is systems that decay, that are moving towards chaos, towards
Disorder.
stress, disorder. So Syntropy is the opposite. When you think about system that moves from simple to complex and creates more order, more harmony, more abundance, and that's what Syntropy is. So when you think about Syntropic, there are systems that move from simple to complex. And when you think about a forest, what is a forest? Seeds that grows into a forest that's from simple to complex. And then Syntropic agroforest. What is that? Syntropic, we know. Simple to complex, harmony, abundance, agriculture, forest, for so Syntropic agroforestry. That's it. That's the breakdown.
That is an awesome breakdown. I had looked it up before, of course, but how you explained it now really gives me a good picture of what it is. So really appreciate that. And now my next question is more on a personal level, trying to get to know you a little bit better. I myself, I was born in Colombia, moved
Hmm.
to the United States when I was 11 years old. So when I started following you on Instagram, maybe that's one thing that I was interested, right? Seeing that it seemed like you're from Brazil, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, just tell me a little bit about your background and where you came from.
I was born in Brazil and I moved to Australia 20 years ago. And I've since, I think there's been 5 or more years, I've been going to the US yearly to teach more a little bit about agroforestry. But my background, my great grandparents, as most of our great grandparents, they had to grow food because you couldn't find everything at the supermarket not long ago. I'm talking in my time, I remember going to little cities or little towns that there was no big supermarkets at all. I'm talking 35 years ago, when I was growing up. So that used to be, that's how I saw my great grandfather, my great grandmother growing food on the backyard. And when we used to go to their house on the weekends, she used to kill the chicken, kill the pig, and then any excess of food she used to share with the neighbors, harvest the uh, pumpkins out of the backyard. She used to have coffee plants where she used to, smell the coffee, the roasted coffee. It brings me back to that space where she used to roast the coffee and then grind it, and that was part of the whole process, how I grew up. So when you think about coming from there, moving to a big city, totally disconnect from it, and then moving to another country, and then here trying to go and learn more about healthy food, a healthy lifestyle, it brought me back straight back to Brazil, where agroforestry was very strong over there. And if you think about 10, 12, 15 years ago, YouTube was not what it is today. You could not find a lot of videos about it. So I had to commit myself to go back to Brazil and learn from the people who was actually doing it. And that took me in a journey of really learning from large scale farmers to backyard growers, knowing what it took to actually grow food in a healthy environment, not only healthy environment ecologically, but a healthy environment humanly, you know what I mean? Like emotionally, physically. And then learning permaculture, agroforestry, uh, biodynamics, and any other methodology, understanding that for me they are just tools that you gotta have in your tool belt. So the same saw that a plumber use, the builder use, the gardener use, is that the tools they are the same. The application of that, how you use that tool is different. So when you understand that, you gotta understand how that tool works. Because if you get a saw and you flip it upside down and you try to cut it, doesn't matter if you're using it for gardening, for plumbing, or for building, it's not gonna work. And if you use permaculture upside down for any context that you're going to use, it's not going to work. If you use agroforestry, syntropic, or whatever you're going to use upside down, it's not going to work. So understanding the tools that you got to have in your tool belt and how it works, and then you can apply that into your context, it's more important. So it took me a lot of learnings. And now I saw that because I know it, when we know, we think that everyone should know it, everyone already knows it. and that's not the case. You go to schools, kids don't even know where food comes from. You ask them how to get where eggs comes from. They say supermarket. Where milk comes from is the supermarket. Where food. So the lack of understanding and also a lot of travel brought me back to really understand that there is a huge gap of knowledge out there, and then I created that company that I not only teach, but I do designs. So for people who wants to have a homestead, they need a design for their house, where to put the chickens, where to put the feed forest, where to put the staple food, where to put. So I make the proper landscaping design with edibles and everything, and that gets people to speed up their learning curve. Instead of making all the mistakes, I use all the mistakes that are already made, and then I put into people's contacts, and then they can start from there. You know what I mean? So my learning was going back to Brazil, back and forth, bringing teachers over once, twice, three times a year sometimes, being here with me in my home, going around to the farms that I was working, running workshops, and going to different countries, running workshops in deserts, semi-arids, rainforests, backyards, churches, everything, like everything that I've done, different soils, different people, different conditions, and understanding that the principles and processes of nature, they are the same. Doesn't matter where you go. The same way that you find a human in Africa, they got arms, they got legs, they got hearts, they got skin, they got bones. Then you find a human in America, they have the same structure. Then you find a human in Bosnia, they have the same structure. So nature is the same. In the four corners of this planet, there is a pattern. It works on the same way. And my target is to learn more and teach more and help people to be to go in this through the same journey that I'm going.
Thank you for sharing that. And that last part, that I mean, you mentioned a lot of great points, but that last part, that the principles and processes are all the same, and that all humans really, wherever we go, we are the same, and we got the same type of needs. And I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, and they mentioned how we actually have more similarities than differences, right? Like if you really compare an our anatomy, we are pretty much the same. But yet we have so many differences mentally, where we maybe criticize each other, or uh, more of psychological things that we create differences. But when we go down to a molecular level, or humans in general, we are really more similar than different. And it's almost
Yeah,
impossible to find uh, real differences when you really look at it. Um, so then the next question, it's actually sort of on the um, mentoring or advice. Since you mentioned you when you started your journey, you worked with a lot of different experienced people. So my question is, what is the best advice that you've received when it comes to growing food?
best advice that I received is I think that I just said before, it's understanding my context.
Okay.
Some people want to grow like, oh, I want to do a big farm. I got a lot of land, but if you don't have a lot of money to sustain, or if you don't have a lot of people to help you, there is no point of trying to do that. It's like a business, it's like a child. You gotta have capacity, and capacity sometimes not only is means time, but also money and manpower. You know what I mean? So understanding understanding context to where you at, how much water you got access to, how much money you want to spend in doing that, how much time you want to spend. I think that's the best advice that I understood from there, and that's what I keep trying to pass it on to people.
Definitely. And the next question, it might be the same answer, so that's fine if it is. But if you were starting from zero again, what's the best piece of advice that you give to your younger self? you were starting from
to
scratch?
to go and do more workshops and learn more from the people who is actually doing. Because for me, I was in Australia, and I know that's the land of permaculture. And you see one, you think that every other farm is the same. You see one person doing something, you think that everyone is doing the same. But the more places. I see people who is doing our workshops and they come to 5, 10, 20 workshops and they keep saying that every workshop that we do is a little bit different because the context changes in different properties, even in the same farm but different times of the year. It's totally different. And what they saw a year ago, 2 years ago in that same farm, now the trees are already big, it's growing, it's pruning time, it's totally different. So for me is the advice that I would give is go and see different contexts and go, because whatever you're not spending financially or time wise here now, you're gonna pay in learning in your own time in the future. That will take it will cost you time and money anyway at the end of the day.
Definitely learning from others is actually the whole concept of school, right? If someone has had success in some type of industry, so why go and learn it all yourself and make all the mistakes if you could just go and learn from someone that's already done it? So that's a great advice that I completely agree that I've actually want to implement myself, because there are so many different farms and styles of agricultural in Florida that I follow either on social media or that I've known them. That my goal in the next few months is to try to learn from them and visit as many as I can. And my last question related to the business aspect, you mentioned that's how your whole story and how you got into starting your business. And then my last question would be, from those mentors that you've had, what's the best financial advice that you received throughout your lifetime?
I start small, start big. Think big, start small, start soon. For me, that was the best one. I really cannot recommend that enough. You know what I mean?
Definitely, I like it a
Because
lot.
because how can I say, when you actually go up there and start doing it, um, that's where the questions will rise. You know what I mean? For example, we have. Yeah, I think that that's the best piece of advice that I can always give. Like, just go out and try to do a little plot. Could be 2 by 2 feet, could be 20 by 20 feet, could be 200 by 200 feet, so it could be 2000 by 2000, 20,000. So just start, start start growing. If you don't know even where to start, come to a workshop or get us to help you to do a design. You know what I mean? We There are houses that we do designs for where it's in the middle of the city, where there is a swimming pool in the backyard and they want to grow food instead of have ornamentals. We just do the full design for them and start from there.
Definitely, completely agree. When it comes to, a lot of people want to get into growing food or homesteading or farming as a changing their entire life, even their income, right? So you could think big and it could become your number one income somehow, but you have to start small and start soon. So I really like that. I'm gonna apply it on myself. So then the next um, section is more on application and related to soil health. For many people, that is a big challenge depending on their location, and is one of the first things that you have to deal with whenever you're starting any type of garden or food forest or anything. So my question is, in general, what are your recommendations for improving soil health, and specifically here in Florida, if you have any advice for sandy soil?
Okay, so going back to the body, what is the solution to have a healthy body? Healthy food. Yeah, there is no other. There is no other way. You can take as much medicine and vitamins and pills, whatever it is, but in the long run, if you're not eating healthy, there is no way that you're gonna become healthy. So, what is healthy food for the soil? What is the solution for clay soil? Organic matter. What is the solution for sandy soil? Organic matter. Why? It's not me saying that. It's like what if you dig down into the Amazon, after 2, 3 meters down into the black topsoil, what you're gonna find is sandy soil. So once upon a time there was a desert. What was the difference between desert and Amazon? Forest up, growing all that organic matter in the ground. 100 years, 500 years, another 500 years of organic matter, another 500 years, 1,000 years, 5,000, 10,000, 100 million years of forest growing, and that's what builds up. So the solution is organic matter.
Definitely,
How
I agree.
much? How much? It's like money in your bank account. How
As
much?
much as you can.
As much as you
Eh,
can.
The more, the better.
The more the better. Yeah.
Definitely, I like that answer. Very, very simple, but it's the truth. Because from my experience, all you can do is put layers of organic matter, and then the soil improves over time. And it actually, the
So
follow-up question.
what is topsoil? If you buy it from somewhere, if you buy 5 truckloads of compost, if you can get that compost and rewind the time, what that compost used to be?
Leaves, branches, all the different things that drop in the floor, or if you
Organic
do your own
matter.
exactly, organic matter.
Even the compost, if you do your own compost, what is that? Organic matter.
Exactly.
So, but the thing is, a truckload will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, hundreds of dollars, depending on how much area you're gonna put. It will be hundreds of thousands of dollars to
Exactly.
get that much or that much. You know what I mean? So, what I teach people when we grow our food production system is how to grow the food for the food in situ, so you don't have to bring it from outside.
Wait, can you repeat that? How to grow
The food for your food
the food
in
for your food?
situ.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
So because the what is the food for the food? Organic matter. Doesn't
Exactly.
matter if you are in the desert or in the forest. So that's where the principles and processes that we teach during the workshop, by doing it, it's really how to grow. And the next workshop that we have in Florida is in a very sandy soil, and you see the best mangoes in the whole of Florida growing there.
Well, and you actually answered my next question already, so you don't have to answer. I'll read it anyways, but are there any soil improvement principles from Syntropic Agroforestry that can be applied anywhere regardless of climate and location?
Anywhere, man. Like I'm doing a project in Texas where if you have a chance to follow it on YouTube, it's called Dust Ups on YouTube. It's a
Okay.
guy who was trying to grow. He's a tech guy who bought a chunk of land and said, "I'm gonna grow a forest in the desert." And he's been rambling around for a year and a half. Nothing. He couldn't even grow cactus. And then I came into the picture. We made a design, we made a plan of attack, and now I've been there. I think that was in May or April that I was there last, and since then he's already got a mini forest growing in 3 months, 4 months. You know what I mean? In the middle of Chihuahua Desert in Texas. The so from deserts to temperate climate to subtropical, tropical, oh, it's doable anywhere.
Exactly, definitely. And actually segues into the next topic, which we're almost wrapping up. That was all of my questions, but it was um, you mentioned the workshop that you have coming up in Florida. So if you want, tell us a little bit more about the event, what people can expect, and how can someone sign up and register for it?
Okay, so it is on our website. I'll send you the link so you can post into the group here.
Yes, yes.
Um, so it's a workshop run by me at one of my very old students. He came to Costa Rica to learn at the time because there was nothing happening in America. I was running workshops in Costa Rica, I think 2015, 16, 17, 18. I think he came in one of those workshops. I don't recall exactly which year he came. And he was trying to do it by watching videos on YouTube. And then when he came, boom, the it sunk in for him a little bit more. And then since then, I've been talking to him. His name is Matthew Reese. He runs a farm called Pro Agroforestry or Peace River Organics. That's the name of the nursery or the farm. He sells mangoes and mango trees to people. And he's got a couple of acres there, one of the most beautiful farms in Florida, actually, fully producing, no inputs, no. I don't even think that he's got irrigation on in the farm. So no irrigation, very sandy soil, and that within the mangoes he's growing pineapples, coconuts, and papayas, and a lot of other fruit trees. The workshop will be happening in October, a month away. I think that's on the 18th. Yeah, will be on 18th, 19th, and 20th of October. Is a 3-day workshop. There'll be a lot of good knowledge. I've done that for the last 2 or 3 years at his place, so you can see the evolution of the system. It is on my website, syntropicsolutions.com. And yeah, if people are interested to learn, uh, if you want to go to Brazil, that's the best place to learn. The second best place to learn is here in Australia, and the third best place to learn or the best place to learn in America is in Florida because there is a system, a living classroom there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I will definitely post the link. You already sent me the website for the event, so I will post that in the school community. And I'm excited to learn about. You said
Matt Reese, yeah.
Matt Reese's farm. It seems very interesting that the fact that they don't have irrigation, very awesome. Because that's one of the biggest concerns here in Florida, right? During the summer, it's very hot. So if you don't have irrigation, I wonder. Now I'm curious to see how they overcome those heat droughts. But now, with the remaining few minutes that we have, I just wanted to open it up to Luke and Lucy to see if they have any questions for Tiago.
I don't really have any questions, but I love the concept of growing food for your food. I have a comfrey patch just for that very reason, chop and drop.
Yeah. I changed the name from chop and dropping because I've been to a few farms where they chop and drop and looks like a big mess. And chop and dropping, it's not actually the correct terminology. So we changed it to chop and organize it because nature is not a mess. It's very organized. Plants, they don't overlap to each other. They don't overgrow. They respect each other. So if you look at the forest from on the top, there is the plants, even when they go around, they're not touching and rubbing on each other. They really respect each other's space and they don't overgrow. There is no competition in nature. The plants are always collaborating and cooperating. So the chopping and organizing it is a very crucial part of it. But the thing is, you gotta learn to plant the things that you can chop and organize because some plants you can prune multiple times a year. Some plants you can prune couple times a year. Some plants you can prune once in a year. Some plants you can prune once every 5 years. So imagine in terms of food for your food, if you only have food in Christmas, could be as much food as you can cook for yourself. But if you only eat once in a year, it's not gonna do well for you. The same thing will go for your plants. So you need to know what you have growing in your garden so you can support. We call them support species. So we classify them into placenta 1, placenta 2, secondaries, and climax. And within those plants, we have the target plants, the placenta plants, and this all the support species that we'll go into. So understanding that's very crucial so you can chop and organize it.
Thank you. That makes so much sense.
That's good.
I've got some questions, mate. I'm in
Yeah,
Australia myself, just out in Newcastle.
yeah.
Whereabouts are you located?
At the moment, I'm in Ocean Shores on the Northern Rivers, close to the Gold Coast, between Gold Coast and Byron Bay.
Okay, yep. Um, what are you using as your support species generally? Like, for example, I'm using pigeon pea, butter grass, Mexican sunflower, um, eucalyptus, acacia for stratification. What are you generally finding success with in Australia?
There is a lot, all those plants that you mentioned, and a bunch of others that we use, from casuarinas or she oaks to mostly grasses as well. We use a lot of grasses and canna lily. So it depends on what is your target plant, you know what I mean? So well, the thing is, if I'm catering for those plants, I need to understand when do they need more sunlight, when in winter the sun goes low, when do I need to open up my system for those. So, and for example, if you rely only on grass, the grass grows very well in summer, in spring, but doesn't grow well in autumn, in winter. So you need to know what sort of grass you're using and how, and that's why that's where I changed it from chopping and dropping to chopping and organizing it, because the chopping and dropping, and most of the time, if people don't know how to organize organic matter, you're saving time, but not really. You know what I mean? Because you're putting it disorganized, and that will take longer for your organic matter to decompose. And if you have air gaps when you're pruning it, say when you're dropping or not organizing it, that will be a lot more airflow into your organic matter that will not give the time that it needs to decompose it, and that will be heaven for termites and mice and snakes. And so you want to create a haven for worms and microbiology, not for
Yeah.
pests. Uh,
With your
I would need to understand more your context and what is your target plants, so we
yeah,
can design something for it.
um, when you're designing a garden nowadays, like in tropic rows, do you have your support species right on the edge of your production rows, or are you making a dedicated support species row adjacent
It,
to it?
it it depends. So I'm growing in a commercial system now for a passion fruit farmer, where I have some support species within the row itself,
Yep.
and then I have some support species outside of the row. That's the grasses and few other species. But I am creating one specific row for biomass just next to it, because if I have all my plants in the row, that will shade too much my passion fruit, or they can climb into the my support species as well, and that will be. So again, understanding the context and the how you're gonna manage it's crucial. But there is no set of
Hard fast.
rules. Yeah,
Okay.
I got that you were an Aussie as soon as you said, "Hey, mate, I got some question
Yeah.
here," and then I said, "I got an Aussie right there," you know.
Yeah. Um, I believe I attended a garden that you may have done a workshop at Yarrahapinni, on the edge of a campground there,
Yeah.
which was around the Scots Head area.
Oh, at the
Um,
church place there, at the
yeah,
camping ground.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing actually. I just locked in to do a garden for the same church up here in Malambimbi, and we're doing like this amazing design. Actually, I just approved just before I jumped in. I just approved the design. So we're gonna have a mini climbing system, and they want self-sufficiency for the church. So I have each row of 15, 20 meters with like 4 or 5 mangoes, another row with like 6 citrus, 6 oranges. So we're growing 20, 21 different target plants in the whole system. So it's 85 meters by 25. So we're growing 24 rows of 7 meters apart, and then we're subdividing it in four different sections. And I just approved it, and that's the first step for us to have plenty material to do a commercial farm. So yeah, I like that project. But the thing is, John, the guy who is managing it, he cannot go there more very often.
Yeah.
So the system can be overgrown sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, in your experience getting around the world, what areas, say Florida versus our area in Australia, do you find they have common ground a lot of the time in what they can grow in their conditions?
Yeah, it's just different seasons and different zoning. For example, where you are in Newcastle there, you are right in the edge of subtropical to temperate,
Yeah,
nearly temperate climate. For example, if you want to grow apples, so, some years your apples will do really well because you're right there in the edge there. Some years it won't because it's too hot for it. You know what I mean? And then you go 2 hours south of you, you have amazing apple growers. So 3 hours south of you might have. So the thing is, it's choosing your target plants accordingly to what can grow in your region. That's really important. And then create the whole life support system around those plants to cater for droughts, floods, because responding to a question to the point is the same problems that they have in Florida, we have here too. Like it's very hot there now, humid, And then 2 years ago, they went through a cyclone where where it was very wet as well. So the problems that they encountered there is the same problems that we encountered here as well. And then you go 10 hours inland in Australia, it's the same problems that they encounter going 10 hours inland from Dallas. That's the desert there. So but my point here is the principles and processes and structure that needs to be created for those systems, they are the same. Because as I said, the difference between Amazon and the desert is just time, where the forest went up and down, forest up and down, and we don't have that time.
yeah,
If you're lucky, we live up to 100 years, you know what I mean? So we need to eat yesterday, today, tomorrow, and we need to grow our food production systems accordingly to what can grow in our region.
yeah. I can definitely agree with the feeding the soil and changing the food structure, the soil structure. When I first moved to my place, I had to dig with a mattock into the ground just to plant a simple tree. And nowadays, in the same spots, a spade will slide right in. And I've been able to change clay to a nicer composition and also a sandy soil, more organic matter, as you've said previously.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing once you start learning about it and start putting it into practice.
Yeah, you guys, another beautiful project that we did is you can watch a video. It's a system that I did in Lightning Ridge. Lightning Ridge is a
Yep.
a mining area in Australia, in the middle of the desert, like 11 hours away from the coast. And they say, man, the only thing that you get growing there is bogans, like there is nothing else growing there. And we got to grow a forest there, in a redneck country. Like there is a beautiful food for even bananas growing in the middle of the semi-arid there. So it's called Lightning Ridge Syntropics, So if you find, you're gonna find a beautiful video of it on YouTube as well. Any more questions?
All
I'm
right.
okay,
Well,
thank you.
thank you both, Luke and Lucy, for your questions, and thank you so much, Tiago, for your time today. I know time is the most valuable thing that, the most valuable resource that we all have. So I really appreciate you taking the time to, come talk to us and sharing all your experience and insights today. It's been very awesome to learn from you. And if anybody hasn't checked out um, his Instagram, Syntropic Solutions, check it out. There he has the links to his website and all the information. But other than that, Tiago, do you want to direct anybody that watches this to any other social media or website or?
I, I would say, look, if you're around, come to the workshop in Malamimi that we have in October or November, sorry. It's a beautiful system that we have here since 2018, and will be two of us, Rodrigo and myself. That's the most experienced syntropic people that you have in Australia at the moment. Would be really good if you want to learn more. For Lucy and Andres, man, guys, come to the one in Florida, and if you find anyone else that could benefit out of this workshop, it's let's put it like that. Every time that I go to learn in Brazil, I spend around $10,000 in flights, accommodation, and a month away from home. While you guys have that in your backyard there, like a couple of hours away, you know what I mean? And same thing
Mhm.
for you, Luke. For me, every time that I need to bring, so I'm bringing a teacher next year, it will cost me $30,000 to bring him here, so to learn. So when you put in perspective what it actually takes for you guys to learn in your backyard there within your own context, and think about that for at least 5 to 7 years, I was going back and forth, and that's what it took me to learn all of that. And the way that I'm packaging this up and have that delivered in your backyard, in your own country there, it's very good for you guys. You know what I mean? So if you can help me to spread the word, because somehow I'm not reaching out to enough people, and that's a shame. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm always keen to do this sort of talks and sharing the knowledge, because I believe that we all should know how to grow our food.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you very much, and I will do my best to share it with as many people as I can, and to attend myself. So if there's no other questions or any comments, again, thank everyone for joining today, the first Q&A call, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
I'd love to come back here, Andres. Feel free, and I'd love to go and talk more about like homestead only. You know what I mean? Like how to grow food in your doorstep. Like for people who lives in suburb, how to because I'm creating these few products now called Staple Food Garden, Berry Lane, Mini Food Forest, Mini Climbing System, seasonal veggies. So we can do that in a very small space and make sure that you have self-sufficiency. So if there is a chance for me to come back here, and I'd love to come back and talk more about that.